The forest was dark, and the mist curled around every tree like a living thing. Lyra ran, her bare feet crunching over fallen leaves and broken twigs. Her chest heaved, and her heart pounded as if it would break free from her body. Behind her, the sound of footsteps echoed faintly, and she knew they were getting closer. She had to escape. She had to hide. The mark on her wrist burned like fire. She pressed her fingers against it instinctively. It was small, almost hidden, but she knew its power. Ever since she had discovered it, people had wanted her for reasons she did not fully understand. Some feared it. Some desired it. Some would kill for it. And now, after weeks of running, she was nearly exhausted. The forest seemed endless. A maze of shadows and mist. Twisted branches reached out like fingers, snagging her hair and scratching her arms. Lyra stumbled over roots and rocks, but she did not stop. Every sound made her heart jump. The whisper of leaves, the distant call of an owl, the cracking of a branch. She was being hunted, and she could feel it. Her eyes caught a glimpse of something in the distance, a small hut, almost hidden under thick vines and moss. Its roof was broken in parts, and the walls were cracked and weathered. It looked abandoned, forgotten by time. Lyra did not hesitate. She ran toward it, hoping it would be her salvation, even if only for a moment. The hut smelled of damp wood and decay, but it was quiet. She slipped inside, holding her breath, and pressed herself against the wall. Her heart slowed slightly, but she could still hear the distant footsteps approaching. She tried to steady her shaking hands and remind herself that she was safe, at least for now. She glanced around the small space. Dust covered the floor, and cobwebs hung from the corners. A broken chair leaned against the wall, and the remnants of an old fireplace sat cold and empty. It was not much, but it was enough to hide her. Lyra sank to the floor and pulled her knees to her chest. Memories came unbidden as she rested against the wall. She remembered her childhood, growing up in a small village at the edge of the kingdom. Life had never been easy. She had learned to be quiet, to avoid attention, and to keep her secrets hidden. And yet, the mark had chosen her, tying her to a destiny she did not understand. The stories of the mark had been whispered to her as a child. Some said it belonged to the royal bloodline, cursed centuries ago by a sorceress jealous of their power. Others said it could grant a person abilities beyond imagination, but only if they survived the trials that came with it. Lyra did not know what to believe. All she knew was that it had changed her life and now made her a target. A sudden noise outside made her jump. Leaves rustled, and branches snapped under heavy footsteps. Lyra pressed herself closer to the wall, trying to make herself invisible. Her mind raced. Who was coming? Would they hurt her? Could she run? Again? The door to the hut creaked open slowly. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. Two figures stepped inside, their presence commanding and dangerous. She could feel their power before she saw them fully. They moved with a quiet strength, each step measured and purposeful. One had eyes like ice, sharp and calculating, cold as winter. The other's eyes were like embers, burning with heat and fire, fierce and wild. They were identical in every way, yet their presence felt completely different. Lyra had heard rumors of the twin alphas, rulers of the northern forests, men of great power and danger. She had prayed she would never meet them. Her instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs felt frozen. The twins stopped a few feet from her hiding spot. They looked around, their eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. Lyra could feel their gazes. One searching for weakness, the other searching for something else. Something she could not name. "You've been running far," the one with the icy eyes said softly, but there was a sharp edge to his voice. Why hide in a place like this? Lyra did not answer. She pressed herself further against the wall, hoping they would leave. But the one with ember-colored eyes crouched slightly, his gaze meeting hers. "Do not be afraid," he said. "We do not wish to harm you, yet." Lyra's mind spun. How could she trust them? Her entire life had been about survival. Trust was a luxury she could not afford. She wanted to speak, to explain herself, but the words caught in her throat. Fear, confusion, and something else, something electric, ran through her body. The twins exchanged a brief glance, a silent conversation in the tilt of their heads and the set of their jaws. It was then that Lyra understood they were not just hunters or rulers. They were more. Their presence carried history, power, and secrets older than the trees surrounding them. One of them stepped closer, and Lyra could feel the heat in the air shift. "The mark," the twin with ember eyes whispered, almost to himself. "It is stronger than we thought." Lyra's hand shot to her wrist. She wanted to hide it, to pretend it did not exist. But the glow of the mark was faint now, a soft red against her pale skin. She realized they could see it, even through the dim light of the hut. "You cannot hide from what you are," the twin, with ice eyes, said, his voice cold and certain. "The mark chooses its bearer. It has chosen you." Lyra's fear spiked. Chosen? She did not want to be chosen. She did not want to be special. She only wanted to survive. Her mind raced. If they knew about the mark, what else did they know? Were they allies, enemies, or something in between? The ember-eyed twin crouched lower, tilting his head as if trying to read her thoughts. "You are frightened," he said. And it was a statement, not a question. "You do not need to be. Not yet." Lyra swallowed hard. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust the soft warmth in his voice. But years of running, hiding, and surviving told her otherwise. Trust could kill. The icy-eyed twin moved to the doorway, peering outside. He did not speak, but his posture was tense, alert. Lyra could sense the danger lingering in the forest, the hunters, the magic that seemed to hum in the air around them. Suddenly, a howl pierced the night. It was long, unnatural, and filled with warning. Lyra's heart leapt into her throat. Both twins stiffened. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Lyra saw something in them she did not expect: fear, or perhaps recognition. Something ancient and dangerous had been awakened, and it was coming for her. The hut seemed smaller suddenly, the walls closing in around her. She wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The twins' presence filled the space, and the forest outside seemed to hold its breath. "You cannot hide forever," the icy-eyed twin said, his voice low and steady. "The mark will bring them to you. And we will be there too. And we..." Lyra's mind spun. She did not understand what was happening. Who were these men? Why were they searching for her? And why did she feel, in spite of everything, that she was not completely alone? The ember-eyed twin extended a hand, a gesture of both invitation and warning. "Come with us," he said. "Or, stay here and face what is coming alone. The choice is yours, though time is short." Lyra hesitated. Her instincts screamed to flee, but a small part of her wanted to take his hand. The thought of facing the unknown alone terrified her more than the risk of trusting him. Yet, a deeper fear lurked in her chest. What if accepting their help only drew her closer to danger? The howl came again, closer now. Sharper. The forest seemed to darken, the shadows moving with life. Lyra's heart pounded in rhythm with the approaching threat. She looked at the twins, seeing the faint tension in their posture, the subtle glow of their eyes in the dim light. Somehow, she knew that her life was about to change forever. The mark was awakening. The twins were not just hunters, they were destiny itself. And hiding in this abandoned hut, had bought her only moments of safety. The ember-eyed twin gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Decide quickly," he said. "The forest does not forgive hesitation. Neither do they." Lyra swallowed hard. She could feel the pull of the mark, the warning in the air, and the unspoken power in the twins' presence. She knew she had no choice but to leave the hut, to step into a world she did not understand, and to face the danger that hunted her through the misted forest. With one trembling breath, she rose to her feet. She stepped toward the twin who had offered his hand. And for the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of something she had not felt before: hope. But hope, she realized, was dangerous, especially when destiny itself was hunting her. And outside, the shadows of the forest shifted. Eyes gleamed in the dark. The night was not empty. It was alive. Lyra took the twin's hand, her fingers brushing against his, and felt a warmth that was almost unreal. The hut seemed to shrink behind them as they stepped into the mist. The unknown, waiting with bated breath. The twins were silent, their eyes scanning the forest as they led her away. But Lyra could feel it. The forest was watching. The mark was awakening. And something, ancient and powerful, was moving closer, drawn to her, in the night. For the first time, Lyra realized that hiding had only delayed what was coming, and that what came next could change everything. The forest was thick with mist, the moonlight barely piercing the dense canopy above. Lyra walked between the towering trees, her fingers brushing against the damp bark. The twins walked ahead of her, silent, their presence both comforting and intimidating. Each step she took felt heavy, weighed down by fear, confusion, and the lingering glow of the mark on her wrist. Kale, the twin with ice-gray eyes, moved with careful precision. Every branch that bent beneath his step seemed intentional. Every shadow he passed acknowledged. He was quiet, calculating, like a wolf stalking through the night, analyzing everything around him. Kaidan, the twin with ember-colored eyes, moved differently. His steps were softer, but there was a heat in his gaze, a fierce intensity that made Lyra's heart quicken every time she glanced at him. The hut faded behind them, swallowed by the mist. Lyra's mind raced as they walked. Why had they not captured her immediately? Why did they not harm her? There was something in their eyes, something unspoken, that made her feel as if she was being judged, examined, and yet, strangely, protected. "You are strong," Kale said suddenly, his voice cutting through the quiet like ice. "Stronger than most we have encountered." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Strong? She barely felt strong. She had spent her life running, hiding, surviving. Strength had been measured in how long she could endure, not in power or courage. She looked at him, searching his face for sarcasm or threat, but his expression was calm, almost serious. You don't know me," she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. "I know more than you think," Kale replied. He did not elaborate, but his gaze lingered on her mark, now faintly glowing in the pale moonlight. The mark chooses carefully. It senses the heart beneath the fear. Lyra swallowed hard, her chest tightened. The mark burned lightly again, as if responding to his words. She did not understand it, could not control it, and yet, it was a part of her now, and whatever this mark meant, the twins seemed to recognize its power. Kaidan glanced at her, his eyes softer, almost pleading. "You do not need to hide from us," he said. "Not now. Not when you have no choice but to face what is coming." Lyra hesitated. She wanted to run, to disappear into the shadows of the forest, but she could not ignore the truth in his words. Her life had already changed the moment she received the mark. Hiding would not save her. Something was hunting her, something ancient and dangerous. The forest opened into a small clearing. A stream reflected the moonlight like silver fire, and the mist above it shimmered in the cold night air. Lyra stopped, breathing heavily, her eyes scanning the edges of the forest. She thought she heard movement. Distant footsteps that did not belong to the twins. Cale's gaze followed hers. "They are close," he said, "but not yet ready to strike." His tone was warning, and Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. Kaidan stepped closer to her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "They know about the mark," he said quietly. "They have been waiting, watching, and soon they will come." Lyra's hand instinctively went to her wrist, covering the faint glow of the mark. Fear gripped her, but beneath it was something else. A strange fascination, a pull toward the twins that she could not explain. There was danger here. Yes, but there was also something in their presence that made her feel seen, truly seen, for the first time in her life. Cale broke the silence. "You cannot fight what is coming alone. The mark ties you to this world, to its power, and to us. You may not understand it now, but you will." Lyra wanted to protest, but words failed her. Her mind was full of questions, none of which she dared to speak. How could she trust them? She had spent her life trusting no one. Yet, here they were, offering her protection or perhaps claiming her as part of something she did not yet understand. The twins moved to the edge of the clearing, their movements silent and precise. Kaidan extended his hand to her, a gesture of reassurance. "Come," he said. "We have a place for you. A safe place. For now." Lyra hesitated. The mark burned lightly beneath her fingers, as if urging her forward. Taking a deep breath, she stepped toward him, her fingers brushing against his. A warmth surged through her, unlike anything she had ever felt. It was comforting and frightening at the same time. The moment she took his hand, a sudden howl echoed through the forest. It was long and mournful, carrying a weight that made the hair on her arms stand on end. The twins froze instantly, their eyes locking on the shadows between the trees. "That is no ordinary wolf," Cale said, his voice low, tense. "It senses the mark. It knows." Lyra's pulse quickened. She did not understand, but she could feel the danger closing in. She looked at the twins, searching their faces for reassurance. Kaidan's hand tightened slightly around hers, steadying her without words. Kael's eyes, sharp as ice, scanned the forest, every muscle in his body tense. "You are not alone," Kaidan whispered. "Not anymore." Lyra swallowed hard. The words were simple, yet they carried a weight she had never felt before. She had spent her life running, hiding, and surviving alone. The thought of someone standing by her side, protecting her, terrified and comforted her at the same time. Suddenly, movement caught the corner of her eye. Shadows shifted unnaturally, and the mist seemed to swirl with a life of its own. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. The twins stiffened, and Cale's hand moved to rest on the hilt of a dagger at his side. "They are coming," Cale said, his voice a whisper, but filled with authority. Lyra's heart raced. She wanted to run, to hide, to disappear into the forest, but she knew she could not. The mark would not allow it. The twins would not allow it. And something deep inside her stirred a mixture of fear and resolve she had never known. Kaidan stepped closer to her again, his ember-colored eyes burning in the dim moonlight. "You must trust us," he said. "Not because we command it, but because it is the only way to survive." Lyra hesitated. Trust was not easy. It had never been easy. And yet, looking into his eyes, she felt a strange connection, a bond that defied explanation. She nodded slightly, her fingers tightening around his. Cale moved to the edge of the clearing, his eyes scanning the shadows once more. We will leave soon," he said. There is a place where the mark cannot be seen easily, where you can rest. But the path is dangerous, and we must move quickly. Lyra followed, her steps unsteady but determined. Every nerve in her body screamed with tension, every instinct warning her of the dangers that lay ahead. Yet, beneath the fear, a spark of hope flickered. She was not alone, not anymore. As they moved through the forest, the mist thickened, curling around their legs like living tendrils. Strange sounds echoed through the trees, whispers, rustling leaves, distant growls. Lyra felt the pull of the mark again, stronger this time, guiding her forward, warning her of what was to come. The twins moved with silent precision, their presence both protective and commanding. Lyra could feel the tension between them, an unspoken rivalry that simmered beneath the surface. Yet, there was also a strange unity, a bond that made her feel safe, despite the dangers surrounding them. Finally, they reached a small glade, hidden deep within the forest. A stream ran through it, its waters sparkling faintly in the moonlight. The mist hung low, and the air felt lighter, as if the forest itself had given them a brief reprieve. "This will be your shelter for tonight," Kale said. "Safe, for now. But we cannot stay long. The hunters, the seekers of the mark, they are persistent." Lyra nodded, her body trembling from exhaustion and fear. She sank to the ground, the twins' presence nearby both reassuring and overwhelming. She had never felt anything like this: fear, attraction, and curiosity all mingled together, impossible to separate. Kaidan crouched beside her, his hand brushing against hers briefly. "Rest," he said softly. "Tomorrow, you will need your strength." Lyra closed her eyes, leaning back against the soft grass. For the first time, in what felt like forever, she allowed herself a moment of peace. But even as she rested, she could feel the pull of the mark, the danger lurking in the forest, and the unspoken tension between the twins. She realized then that her life had changed forever. The mark had chosen her, and the twins were now a part of her fate. She could not run from it. She could not hide. The forest was alive with secrets, and her destiny was tied to it in ways she did not yet understand. And outside the glade, hidden in the shadows, the forest watched. The hunters, the seekers, the ancient forces, they waited, and the twins' presence alone would not keep her safe forever. Lyra opened her eyes and looked at them both. One stood silently, alert and calculating. The other lingered closer, warm and watchful. Her heart beat faster as she realized something she had never allowed herself to feel before. She was no longer alone, and yet, the danger had only just begun. The night stretched on, the mist curling around them, whispering secrets of power, destiny, and the mark that bound them all together. Lyra knew that tomorrow she would be forced to face truths she was not yet ready to accept. But tonight, for a brief moment, she allowed herself to hope. The twins watched over her silently, their expressions unreadable, their power undeniable. And as the first faint light of dawn crept through the mist, Lyra realized that the forest, the mark, and the twins had changed her life forever. Something ancient had awakened, and she would never be the same again. The morning light barely touched the forest floor as Lyra followed the twins through the mist. The air was cool, and the scent of wet earth mixed with the faint aroma of pine. Her muscles ached from running. And yet, every step she took reminded her that she could not go back. The mark on her wrist pulsed faintly, a soft reminder of the destiny she could not escape. Kyle led the way, silent and focused, his eyes scanning the trees and shadows as though they held secrets only he could see. Kaidan walked closer to Lyra, his gaze warm, protective, and constant. She could feel the pull between them, a tension that was both thrilling and terrifying. She wanted to trust them, and yet, a small, cautious part of her held back. After hours of walking, the forest began to thin. Towering cliffs rose on either side, their jagged edges etched against the dim sky. At the base of the cliffs lay a stronghold, ancient and formidable, built of dark stone and sharp angles. Its towers reached into the clouds, and banners, tattered but proud, flapped in the morning wind. Lyra paused, awe and fear mingling in her chest. This is your home?" she asked softly. Kael nodded, his expression unreadable. "It is. And soon, it will be yours to know. Though not yet fully. There are rules here, old as the stone itself." Kaidan's amber eyes softened. "Do not be afraid. You are a guest. Though the mark ties you here, you will find your place, even if it is not yet clear." Armin. They approached the gates, and Lyra felt the weight of centuries pressing down. The stronghold was alive with history. Every stone, every shadow, every echo seemed to hum with power. She felt small in comparison, fragile, yet the mark on her wrist reminded her that she was not ordinary. Inside, the stronghold was a labyrinth of corridors and halls. Faded tapestries depicted battles, hunts, and ceremonies long forgotten. Torches flickered along the walls, casting moving shadows that seemed almost alive. Lyra followed silently, her senses alert. Every corner could hide danger. Every shadow could conceal watchers. They entered a large hall, the ceiling high and vaulted. The floor was polished stone, reflecting the light of the torches like liquid gold. Kael gestured for Lyra to sit on a raised dais near the center. She hesitated, then obeyed, sinking onto the cold stone. "You will be safe here," Kael said. His voice carried authority, yet beneath it was an undercurrent of caution. For now the mark is not fully awakened. But soon, it will call. Forces you cannot yet see or understand. Lyra glanced at her wrist. The mark pulsed faintly, as if it knew they were speaking about it. Fear and curiosity twisted together in her chest. She had spent her life running, hiding, surviving. But now, for the first time, she felt as if her life had a direction, even if it was frightening. Kaidan moved closer, crouching slightly to meet her gaze. "You have power," he said softly. "Not the kind that destroys, but the kind that protects, that chooses who you are and what you will become. Do not fear it." Lyra wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that the twins were not simply using her, that they genuinely meant to protect her. But fear was stronger than hope. She nodded slowly, feeling a flicker of determination. If she was to survive, she would need to face the truth of her mark, no matter how terrifying. Kyle walked to a tall window, looking out at the cliffs and forest beyond. "There are those who seek the mark," he said, his voice distant. "They will come. They always come. And when they do, you must be ready. You will need strength, yours, theirs, and ours." Lyra's mind spun. Strength? She barely felt strong enough to stand, yet the twins spoke as if her power was undeniable. And somehow, despite her fear, she wanted to believe them. As the morning passed, they showed her the inner halls of the stronghold. Libraries filled with ancient texts, rooms lined with weapons and armor, chambers that hummed with quiet magic. Everywhere she went, Lyra felt the pull of the mark, tugging her towards something she could not yet see. During a quiet moment, Kaidan approached her again. "You are not like others," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "The mark has chosen carefully, and it has chosen well. You are stronger than you realize." Lyra's eyes met his. There was intensity in his gaze that made her heart race. I don't know what to do," she admitted. "I don't know what any of this means. I just want to survive." Kaidan's hand brushed hers lightly. "Survival is only the beginning. The mark will guide you, if you allow it. But you cannot run from what is coming. Not now. Not ever. A chill ran down her spine. His words were true. She had spent her life running, hiding from danger and fear. But the mark would not let her hide forever. It had awakened. And soon, the forces drawn to it would arrive. Kale's voice interrupted the quiet. "You must rest," he said. "Tonight, you will sleep here. Tomorrow, the trials begin. The mark will call, and you must be ready to answer." Lyra nodded, though her mind was a storm of fear and anticipation. She wanted to sleep, to close her eyes, and forget for just a moment. But the energy in the stronghold made it impossible. Every stone seemed to hum with power. Every shadow seemed to watch. The twins' presence was both comforting and overwhelming. That night, Lyra lay on a simple bed in a quiet chamber. The torchlight flickered along the walls, casting moving shadows. She tried to calm her racing thoughts, tried to rest, but the mark pulsed softly, a heartbeat beneath her skin. Suddenly, a faint glow filled the room. Lyra sat up, her eyes wide. The mark on her wrist shone brighter than ever before, casting a soft, red light across her pale skin. She felt a warmth spread through her, and a voice whispered in her mind, soft, urgent, almost commanding. "Do not fear," it seemed to say. "Do not run. You are ready." Lyra's heart pounded. She did not understand, but the words felt true. She could not run anymore. She could not hide. The mark was awakening, and so was something within her. The door to her chamber opened quietly. Kaidan stepped inside, his amber eyes glowing softly in the torchlight. "You felt it, didn't you?" he asked, gently. Lyra nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, something." He knelt beside the bed, his hand brushing against hers. "The mark has chosen you, and it is awakening, because you are ready. You must not be afraid." Lyra's mind spun. Ready? She did not feel ready. She had spent her life running, hiding, surviving. But the mark pulsed with a quiet strength beneath her skin, and she realized that perhaps it had been waiting for this moment all along. Kale's voice came from the doorway, calm and commanding. "You are not alone. Whatever comes, we will face it together. The mark ties us, and destiny has already begun. You will not face it without us." Dast? Lyra looked at the twins, one cold and calculating, the other warm and protective. Fear still gripped her, but beneath it, a spark of courage ignited. For the first time, she felt a strange sense of belonging, a connection to something greater than herself. The night passed with the twins standing guard outside her chamber. Lyra slept fitfully, dreams filled with shadows, whispers, and glimpses of power she did not yet understand. She saw forests burning, spirits whispering, and a light that seemed to call her from within. When she awoke, the mark pulsed gently, as if alive, guiding her, urging her forward. She realized then that her life had changed forever. The twins were not just her protectors, they were her guides into a world she could no longer ignore. As she rose from the bed, she felt the weight of destiny pressing upon her. The mark had chosen her, and the twins had found her. Together, they would face what was coming. But even as she took her first steps into the stronghold that was now her sanctuary, she felt a tension building, a warning that the journey ahead would test her courage, her trust, and her heart in ways she could not yet imagine. The stronghold's walls seemed to pulse with quiet power, shadows moving as if alive. The twins watched her closely, their expressions unreadable but intent. Lyra knew that the mark was only the beginning. Her trials were just starting, and the forest beyond the cliffs whispered of danger, power, and destiny that could not be denied. As she followed Kale and Kaidan deeper into the fortress, A sense of both fear and anticipation filled her chest. The mark was awakening. The twins were her guides and protectors, and the path ahead would change her forever. Something ancient had stirred, and Lyra knew she could never turn back. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the stronghold. The air was thick with anticipation, and even the stones of the fortress seemed to hum with quiet warning. Lyra walked between the twins, her senses alert to every sound. Her heart pounded, not only from fear but from the strange pull she felt toward Kale and Kaidan. Every glance, every subtle gesture from them made her pulse quicken. Kale's icy eyes scanned the forest from the high battlements. "They are coming," he said, his voice calm but edged with tension. "They know where the mark leads. They will not wait." Lyra pressed her hand against her wrist instinctively, feeling the faint glow of the mark. She could sense the danger too. Something dark and ancient was moving through the trees, drawn to her presence. Her stomach churned with fear, but beneath it, a spark of determination burned. She had survived this long. She would survive what was coming next. Kaidan stepped closer, his amber eyes warm and steady. "Do not be afraid," he whispered. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Lyra swallowed hard. The words comforted her, yet they also reminded her of the stakes. Together, the twins had found her, protected her, guided her, but now, together, they would fight. And she could not run. She would have to face what was coming. The forest beyond the stronghold was alive with movement. Shadows shifted unnaturally. Leaves rustled without wind, and the air carried whispers that made her skin crawl. Lyra could feel the power of the mark reacting, pulsing stronger with each passing moment. It was as if it was calling to something or someone beyond the trees. Kale drew his dagger, its blade catching the fading sunlight. He moved silently to the edge of the battlements, watching the forest with practiced precision. Kaidan followed, his own movements fluid and careful. They were ready. Lyra could see it in the tension in their bodies, the controlled power in their stance. She was not alone. Then, the shadows broke. Figures emerged from the mist, moving with unnatural speed and purpose. Lyra's breath caught. They were cloaked in dark, flowing garments, their faces hidden, but their eyes glimmered with intent. They were seekers of the mark hunters who had waited years for this moment. Kale stepped forward, his voice ringing with authority. "They will not pass," he declared. "Not while the mark is here. Not while she stands with us." Lyra's heart pounded as the tension escalated. She had never seen magic, had never faced forces like these before. And yet, something deep inside stirred. The mark pulsed strongly now. A bright red glow along her wrist. She could feel its energy flowing through her, connecting her to the twins and the stronghold. Kaidan placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "Trust yourself," he said. "Trust the mark. Trust us." The first of the intruders stepped forward, and the air seemed to warp around them. Shadows twisted unnaturally, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to shift. Lyra's stomach clenched. This was no ordinary confrontation. This was something ancient, something dangerous. Kyle moved like a shadow himself, striking with precision and force. Each movement was calculated, each strike efficient. Kaidan followed, his movements fluid and fierce, protecting Lyra while keeping the attackers at bay. Lyra watched, her fear mingling with awe. They were unstoppable, yet she felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her. Then, a figure broke through the line, moving directly toward Lyra. She froze, instinct and fear battling with a strange courage that rose from within her. The mark on her wrist pulsed brightly, as if sensing the threat. She raised her hands instinctively, and a wave of energy shot outward, pushing the figure back. Lyra gasped. She had never done that before. The mark had acted through her, defending her in a way she could not control. Kale and Kaidan glanced at her, expressions unreadable but intense. "Good," Kaidan said softly, but his eyes were fierce. "Do not be afraid. Let it guide you." Lyra's confidence wavered. She did not fully understand what had happened, but she knew one thing: she could no longer run. The mark was not just a symbol. It was a part of her, a source of power that demanded acknowledgement and action. The battle raged around them. Shadows collided with the twins' precision strikes, and Lyra felt the mark pulsing stronger with every movement. Her fear mingled with a strange exhilaration. She could feel the energy flowing through her, connecting her to the twins, to the stronghold, and to something greater than herself. KL moved swiftly, cutting off a shadowy figure that advanced from the left. His movements were like water fluid, controlled, precise. Kaidan struck from the right, his amber eyes blazing as he defended Lyra with every ounce of strength. Lyra focused, closing her eyes for a moment, and allowed the mark to guide her. A surge of energy flowed from her, creating a protective barrier that pushed back the intruders. The shadows recoiled, their whispers fading as the glow of the mark intensified. One of the cloaked figures faltered, revealing its face a mask of twisted, ancient power. Lyra recognized it from her dreams. A figure from the past, a remnant of the curse that had once bound the kingdom. Her heart thudded in her chest. This was more than a fight for survival. This was a confrontation with destiny itself. The twins exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. Kale's dagger flashed, striking with deadly precision, while Kaidan moved like fire, protecting Lyra and keeping the intruders at bay. Lyra's pulse raced. The mark pulsed brighter, and she felt a strange warmth spreading through her body. She realized that she was not just defending herself. She was part of the battle, part of the energy that flowed through the stronghold and the forest. The figure from her dreams moved closer, its eyes glowing with dark intent. Lyra raised her hands instinctively, focusing on the mark. A surge of light burst from her wrist, hitting the figure and sending it stumbling backward. She gasped, the energy leaving her weak, but alive. Kaidan rushed to her side, steadying her. "Well done," he said softly, his voice filled with warmth. "You are stronger than you think. The mark is guiding you." Kale moved forward, his eyes icy but proud. "Do not underestimate yourself," he said. "This is only the beginning. The mark has awakened, but its full power is yet to come." The remaining intruders retreated into the mist, their whispers fading as the glow of the mark dimmed. The forest seemed to exhale, the tension lifting slightly. Though the danger was far from gone, Lyra sank to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. She had faced her first real test, and survived. The twins knelt beside her, their presence steady and reassuring. Kaidan brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You are part of this now," he said softly. "The mark, the stronghold, the destiny, it all includes you. You cannot hide anymore." Lyra nodded, her hands still tingling from the surge of energy. Fear lingered, but it was mingled with a newfound courage. She had survived. She had acted. She had contributed. And for the first time, she felt a connection to something greater than herself. A bond with the twins, with the mark, and with her own emerging power. Kale's voice broke the quiet. "Rest now," he said. "We will need your strength for what comes next. The battle is only beginning, and the forest still watches." Lyra lay back, exhausted but aware. She had been tested, challenged, and had discovered a part of herself she did not know existed. The mark had guided her, and the twins had protected her. Together, they had faced the first wave of danger. Yet even as she closed her eyes, she knew the trials were far from over. The cloak of shadows would return. The ancient forces would not be denied. and the mark on her wrist pulsed softly, reminding her that her destiny was only beginning. In the quiet aftermath, the twins stood guard outside, their eyes scanning the forest, alert and unyielding. Lyra realized then that the bond between them was stronger than rivalry, stronger than fear. They had protected her, guided her, and now she was part of something far larger than herself. The forest was alive with whispers, shadows, and unseen watchers. The mark pulsed, faint but insistent, a reminder that the forces she had faced tonight were only the beginning. And as the first light of dawn crept through the mist, Lyra understood a truth she could not ignore. She could not run, she could not hide, and she could not deny the destiny that had chosen her. The confrontation had revealed more than danger. It had revealed her own strength, the power of the mark, and the unspoken bond forming between her and the twins. Fear lingered, but beneath it, a spark of courage and determination burned brighter than ever. The forest watched. The shadows whispered, and Lyra knew, deep within, that the real trial was yet to come. The stronghold was quiet in the early morning, but the air was thick with tension. Lyra stood at the edge of the cliff that overlooked the forest, her pulse racing. The mark on her wrist glowed softly, a heartbeat of light against her pale skin. She could feel the energy of the forest, the shadows lingering beyond the trees, the whispers of ancient forces waiting for the right moment. Kael and Kaidan were at her side, their presence steady and commanding. Kael's icy gaze scanned the forest, alert for any movement, while Kaidan's amber eyes softened as they met hers. Lyra felt the weight of their attention, the pull of their unspoken connection. Together, they were her strength, her shield, and her guide into the unknown. "The final trial is coming," Kael said, his voice low and steady. "The forces that seek the mark will not stop until they have it, and we cannot allow them to take you or the power that is awakening within you." Lyra nodded, gripping the edge of the cliff tightly. Fear churned in her stomach, but beneath it was a spark of determination she had never known. The mark pulsed more strongly now, a warm energy flowing through her veins. It was awakening fully, guiding her, preparing her for what she must do. Kaidan stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers lightly. "You are ready," he said softly. "Not just to survive, but to face what is coming. Trust the mark. Trust yourself. Trust us." Lyra swallowed hard. Trust was not easy, but she could feel the bond with the twins, the mark, and the stronghold. Everything was connected now. She had no choice but to step forward, to face her destiny. The forest stirred below. Shadows moved like living things, creeping closer, twisting unnaturally. The air grew heavy, charged with power. Lyra could hear whispers, distant and urgent, calling her name. Her pulse quickened, and the mark glowed brighter, its energy coursing through her body. Kael's dagger gleamed in his hand, ready for the confrontation. Kaidan's movements were fluid, protective, as he positioned himself between Lyra and the shadows. The twins were a force of nature, but even they could not face this alone. Lyra's role was no longer passive. She was part of the battle, and the mark had chosen her to lead. The first of the shadowed figures stepped into the clearing. Their forms were dark and shifting, their eyes glowing with a strange, ancient hunger. They moved with unnatural speed, their whispers filling the air with a haunting melody that made Lyra's heart pound. Kael and Kaidan moved as one, striking with precision and power, their actions coordinated and seamless. Lyra watched, fear mixing with awe, and then felt the surge of the mark within her. It pulsed, bright and warm, connecting her to the twins, the stronghold, and the forest itself. "Focus," Kaidan whispered, his voice steady and grounding. "The mark guides you." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, and let the energy flow through her. When she opened them again, the mark blazed with a fierce light, stretching along her arm and illuminating the clearing. A wave of energy burst outward, pushing the shadowed figures back. They hissed and recoiled, their forms twisting unnaturally under the force. She felt the twins' presence beside her, strong and unwavering. But this was her power now. She was the channel, the anchor for the mark, and the force that would protect the stronghold. Fear remained, but courage burned brighter, and determination filled every fiber of her being. The shadowed leader stepped forward, its form towering and menacing. Its eyes glowed like embers, and a deep, chilling voice filled the clearing. "You cannot hold the power that does not belong to you," it hissed. Lyra's heart pounded, but she stood her ground. "It is mine," she said, her voice steady, though trembling slightly. "I will protect it. I will protect everything I care for. I will not run." The figure moved, faster than her eyes could follow, and a wave of dark energy surged toward her. Lyra felt the mark flare brightly. Reacting instinctively, she raised her hands, and the energy formed a shield around her. The force slammed into it, shaking her but not breaking her. She felt the strength of the mark, the connection to the twins, and the unity of the stronghold's power flowing through her. Kael and Kaidan struck at the shadows around her, their movements precise and deadly. Lyra felt the flow of energy between them, each action in harmony with her own. The battle was chaotic, yet controlled. A dance of power and determination. The shadowed leader advanced again, its form twisting and flickering. Lyra focused, channeling the mark fully. A surge of light exploded from her wrist, illuminating the clearing, pushing the shadows back, and forcing the leader to pause. Her pulse synced with the mark, and she felt a deep, unbreakable connection to everything around her. The twins, the stronghold, the forest, and the energy that had chosen her. "You are stronger than I imagined," the shadow leader hissed, retreating slightly. "But this is not over." Noting, Lyra's heart raced, but she did not falter. "It is over for you," she said, her voice unwavering. "The mark protects me. It protects those I care about, and I will not let you harm us." The shadowed figures recoiled, their forms dissipating into the mist. The forest seemed to exhale, the tension easing as the threat withdrew. Lyra's chest heaved with exhaustion, but the mark glowed softly, a gentle reminder of the power she now commanded. Kael and Kaidan moved to her sides, their expressions unreadable, but pride and relief flickered in their eyes. Kaidan took her hand, warmth spreading through her at the contact. "You did it," he whispered. "You faced it and stood your ground." Kael's voice was calm, but edged with admiration. "The mark has chosen well, and you have proven yourself." Lyra sank to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. She had faced her first true challenge, and survived. She had discovered a strength within herself that she had never known. The mark was no longer just a symbol, it was a part of her, guiding her, empowering her, and connecting her to a destiny she could no longer deny. The twins helped her to her feet, their presence steady and reassuring. "You are no longer alone," Kaidan said softly. "The mark binds us together. You, the twins, the stronghold. We are all part of this now." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of her journey and the bond she now shared with them. The fear had not disappeared, but it had transformed into resolve. She had a role, a purpose, and a strength she had never imagined. Kael's gaze softened slightly. "The mark is not just power," he said. "It is responsibility. And you have accepted it. That makes you stronger than any shadow, any threat, any enemy." Lyra looked at the twins, feeling a strange mixture of gratitude, awe, and something deeper she could not yet name. They had guided her, protected her, and now stood by her side as equals in strength and purpose. The forest beyond the cliffs was quiet again, the shadows retreating, But the energy lingered. Lyra could feel it, the pulse of the mark, the whispers of destiny, the connection to the ancient forces that had chosen her. She was no longer a victim of fate. She was its anchor, its guide, and its protector. Kaidan stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers again. "We have faced the first challenge," he said. "But there will be more. The Mark's awakening is only the beginning. And we will face it together." Lyra nodded, her pulse steadying. She had feared the Mark, feared her destiny, and feared the unknown. But now, she felt a strange courage, a connection, and a sense of purpose. She would not run. She would not hide. She would embrace what she had been chosen for, with the twins by her side. Kael placed a hand lightly on her shoulder, his icy gaze softened by respect. "You have done well, Lyra. The Mark has chosen wisely, and so have you. Rest now. For tomorrow, the journey continues, and together, we will face whatever comes." Lyra looked at the twins, at the stronghold, and at the forest beyond. She felt a quiet strength within her, a sense of belonging, and a spark of hope she had never known. The Mark pulsed gently on her wrist, a heartbeat of light, and she knew she was ready. No longer hunted, no longer hiding. She was awakened. The forest whispered around them. The stronghold stood as a guardian, and the twins remained by her side. Lyra's destiny had begun, and she would face it with courage, strength, and the bond that connected her to the Mark and the twins. And as the sun rose, painting the cliffs and forest in gold and shadow, Lyra knew one thing clearly: she would never be the same again. The Mark had chosen her, the twins had found her, and together, they would shape the future of the forest, the stronghold, and their shared destiny.